Welcome to Titan Insights, where we bring advice for founders from industry leaders who've scaled 0 to 1. And today we're fortunate to be talking with Kira Makagon, the president and COO of public company RingCentral, a leading global provider of cloud communication and collaboration. So Kira, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. And here I know you lead so many different departments, including marketing and strategy, investments, products, the list goes on. So really appreciate you spending time with us. And I guess to start, was reading a little bit about RingCentral's dive into AI and a lot of the buzz around, particularly the new AI receptionist, which I was checking it out, is so cool. So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about it and how did that come about?
Great question. And good you looking into our products. So we launched Receptionist because we kept on hearing from our customers that, especially small customers, a missed call in the business is a missed opportunity. And so with the advent of AI, there's an opportunity to solve a real problem. A real problem being that business owners tell us that they can't add staff, they don't have the funds to do it. So our North Star became really helping them not to lose missed opportunities and actually turn this into revenue opportunities. So basically, AI receptionist ensures calls are answered immediately, routine questions are handled automatically, and staff time is freed up for the conversations that really matter. And then we tracked call flows, customer self-reported outcomes to prove the experience delivered on its promise. And we keep on innovating, and it's all basically based on the data that we're getting, both from our customers and our systems.
Yeah, very, very, very cool. And can you tell us a little bit about like behind the scenes? This is obviously a really innovative AI product. What was going on behind the scenes to get this launch? And what you have to do inside the company? Did it require like all new tech or an all new team, or did you have the building blocks already for this product? Tell us a little bit about what was going on.
So in many ways, of course, we were building for it for a while. Um, I kind of say that AI isn't shipped; it lives. And so the way that we think about building our systems is to ensure that every customer call, chat, voicemail generates data that can make the system smarter. So, for example, if AI receptionist misroutes a call, the data is captured and the system learns whether on its own or human assistant. So, for example, in that case, observability and transparency are key in AI systems, and you have to build for that. You also have to adjust team structures and processes. And as we speak, our teams are being reshaped, processes are being transformed, and it's a continuous transformation in the company. So, for example, engineers stopped thinking only in terms of features, and we were prepping for this for a while. They started asking, how do customers actually use this? What does the data say? Our product managers became translators of customer problems into great sort of outcomes, agent behaviors, thinking about, okay, so what is the value here? Customer success reps became co-trainers, literally tagging and feeding real world customer feedback into AI. But not always even having to do that. The systems auto capture and analyze the conversations as they take place. All of that had to take place to actually be able to innovate continuously. And in today's world where technology for writing code, handling customer interaction is all evolving so quickly, the great thing is here is it provides for a lot of innovation within the company, not just innovating on products, but innovating on how we operate, creating essentially room for better productivity, faster cycles. And ultimately, it's all about creating much better and much more engaging customer experiences.
Yeah. Super interesting about the changing roles of like engineers and product managers. They're not necessarily siloed roles. So it's really incredible how you re-architected RingCentral for the age of AI. And we in Ventureland, we're always hearing about like what like AI native. So curious if you have a view on what does AI native mean? It's such a buzzy word.
Well, let me just start with that. I don't think that the winners in AI will be those with flashiest demos, because it's actually relatively easy to build a flashy demo on AI very quickly. They'll be really the ones who will be solving real customer problems. And the way to sort of customers' heart and loyalty is to make the experience such that they don't actually know they're talking to an AI behind the scenes. It feels native, it feels natural, and when needed, it actually is able to uh, to transfer to a human being, engage a human being, and improve the human behind it, so that it together it comes out into a seamless experience. Companies that really think about AI native products, they need to think uh, about that. They need to think about customer experiences, and use the data behind it to really continuously improve. Because at the end of the day, when we talk, for example, to one of the LLMs, we get really frustrated when we can't get a question, we can't answer it, right? When it doesn't quite get us, well, that's how our customers feel, and that's how we need to think about it. So, what do we do with our products for AI native products in terms of making sure that we don't just sort of plan a smooth experience, but we plan for those um, exceptions, and where we need to adjust behavior to uh, uh, work with customers, and or with systems that work with other systems. There's a lot in there where the planning is about interoperability. Is another way of saying it. No AI system is going to live by itself. It's going to interoperate, whether it was the humans behind it or in other systems. And native systems need to be built that way from the ground up.
You've been in the founder seat. How would you advise a founder who's building an AI native company talk to their first customer? Like how do they obviously show that they are in AI because that's what customers want, but that they're actually solving something real?
Yeah, great question. There's something that I call sort of timeless in terms of how companies operate, regardless of the 90s, the 80s, the early 2000s. And the winners are those that great companies are those that never stop listening to their customers. And this really hasn't changed from early days of internet or from early days of building any kind of products. So, for example, when we did build AI reception, it is because we kept on hearing from customers that they couldn't handle calls during peak hours, off hours. And we didn't build it because it was cool, right? We built it because it solved a real problem. And if you solve something real, customers will reward you regardless of what the tools are behind it. They want problem customers want, like, we are all human beings. We want questions answered. We want problems solved. We want value out of the systems that we buy. And where we sell our systems to other companies that then deliver them to their customers, it's the same thing. You have to think about how to make it easy, how to make it uh, not only easy to use, but easy to buy, easy to extend, how to make it easy so that you can partner with other companies around you. So that to me is like nothing's changed, that timeless. Now, what maybe is new um, is and before I go there, it's the importance of execution is absolutely key. There are lots of brilliant ideas. They fail not because the ideas are not good. They fail because the teams couldn't deliver, adapt, focus, and they just couldn't pair their great idea with disciplined execution and building, testing, measuring, adjusting. So none of that has changed. But what did change is the pace of customer learning has transformed. Back in the day, and this maybe predates all of us here, you'd launch a release and then you wait for months for feedback. Uh, Companies used to release products once a year, um, uh, whether software and hardware took even longer. Today, even hardware doesn't take that long. So in analyzing customer signals today lies sort of the holy grail. For us, it's call patterns, chat resolution times, etc. For us, it's the data that we get. But any product that you build, it's the data that you get from customer signals that you can fix in days, hours sometimes, and deliver it to customers iteratively. And sort of the key takeaway is that the winners here in this market are going to be in the same way that sort of always the winners made became winners. It's who is able to adapt the fastest ways possible to stay close to your customers, so that both the customers and the data and good execution lead you to great outcomes.
Mm. And you mentioned a little bit about like teams and hiring. How do you think it's different for a founder today, starting building a company in the age of AI, when they think about hiring, versus what it was like in prior cycles when it was more cloud or SaaS? Um, yeah, how should founders think about hiring those early teams these days?
Well, first of all, I want to say that it's actually really, while it's really easy to build a product today or to build something, it's also really, really hard because of how competitive everything is, and how quickly information travels. So it's an important thing for any founder to have a well-oiled machine, to have well-defined roles. So if the founder is a product person, he needs to have a really good go-to-market person. If the founder is a go-to-market person, they need to have a really good product person. And best, I think most teams perform better when there's this team collaboration and well-defined role playing out work, and they don't step on each other because you have to move really fast, and there's clear delegation. And what founders are really good at, good founders, they're really good at finding that product market fit. And they constantly have to do it based on sort of identifying that ideal customer profile and driving to that. And it's a ruthless process of still interviewing customers, listening to signals, and making sure that the team is well built to be able to absorb that information, to be able to work with that. And there's, I'll say that again, that clear delegation. Whoever's the CEO of the company, they have to be the CEO. They have to drive this. You could have been friends, partners, buddies, whatever. It does not matter. You have to have somebody at the helm. You have to have a strong team, maybe young. Most teams are really young. And then you have to hire into the culture that you shape. And that is really important, that you hire and build that culture from the ground up. And I hope for founders that succeed, they can identify that really early on. To me, and then ability to pivot is key, because what happens is, as you find your product market fit, you have to continue to adapt. You have to continue to seek that product market fit because it's not a straight line. It's never a straight line. And teams that work together, teams that are flexible, that can adapt, that that can sort of put down personal barriers and or break down personal barriers, and work together based on information and common goals.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear how you were able to have three successful companies on your own with all of these different principles. Would love to talk a little bit about your own journey, specifically on the entrepreneurial side. I think you launched, was it three companies, and all across different waves of tech, which is so interesting. Um, how did you do it three times? That's so incredible.
Luck, I think, luck and timing, essential thing, and you guys all know that. It's luck and timing. But really, number one, when you start a company, don't solve a made up problem. That is really not a good thing. Whatever's fashionable today won't be fashionable tomorrow. You have to solve a real problem that you understand well, or your team understands well. That's even better. And so um, when we built our first company with my co-founders, we were fortunate enough to be experts in customer relationship management. We built previous company together where we weren't founders, but we were early on. Scopus Technology, which was one of the very first uh, client server based CRM systems back in mid 90s, which of course dates me. But we were sort of the principal team, and then we decided in the uh, um, internet era that there's an opportunity to build not a client server based system, but true internet based system, still solving similar problems, but solving them faster and solving them with less cost and ultimately delivering more value. And that's what we did at Octane Software. We built that and we built that very, very quickly because we knew what we were doing and we had an exceptional team. Many of the team, the founders, and many of the staff we hired came from people who we worked with before. And that, of course, was sort of luck, timing, etc. Scopus was acquired by Siebel at the time. So that sort of freed up a lot of people to go do something else. Those are sort of the best moments to do that. Um, in terms of follow-on companies, um, and we had a great exit on at Octane, and a lot of it, I think, again, it's luck, it's timing, it's willingness to know maybe when to get out, or when to partner, when to continue on. All of these are important things. You should sort of never have these assumptions on uh, exactly your path because you have to charter it as the company grows and scales and opportunities arise. Really, the other companies I started were really in more in data space, and some of the ideas came to me based on some very simple things. Their personal experiences. I couldn't find something. Search was impossible. I was looking something for myself, couldn't find it, and I said, I better build a company that can do this better. There's got to be a better way to do it, and that became the next company essentially that solved the problem of finding things for you based on exactly what you want, which now is known as behavioral targeting. So all of the things that I've done, if in terms of uh, building companies, have to do with knowledge of the problem, deep understanding, finding the right team, and personal experience, which is key. And by the way, I'll give you a little sort of anecdotal tidbit here. When I started Nebiad, I needed a phone system. I needed to look bigger than I was because I was doing research. I literally was looking at ways that advertising agencies would work with us, that publishers would work with us, and I was new to the field of advertising and search, and so I set myself up with a essential number, and the essential number was, you know, dial one to talk to marketing, dial two to talk to sales, dial three to whatever, talk to somebody else. All of these were routed to my mobile number. And so that was the start.
Oh, was that your first interaction with RingCentral as a
Not,
customer?
not, no, not Eli. I've known the founders for a long time, but yeah, as a customer, that was my first interaction.
It's so fun.
As a customer, yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, the three companies, congratulations. And you mentioned luck and things like that, but clearly like you had this playbook that worked to go from, idea to, taking it all the way. And it sounds like there were a bunch of things that you did in each company that were very similar to bring that success. Um, what was it like founding three companies in different tech eras?
A lot of learning, a lot of sort of oh god moments, or I would call them, honestly, oh boy moments or whatever moments. Um, some disappointments, always. Some very hard decisions, very very hard decisions. And you have to, and a lot of sort of learning how to swim with the current, and sometimes have to fight the current. And really, I'll go back to timing and people. The key in any company is going to be finding the right team and executing. Um, there are lots of companies that are built, that are started. Very few make it to the finish line. Very few have a successful exit. And I think it's really the team that executes on the ground with the founders that makes it viable. And those companies that succeed are those with great teams. And that, by the way, goes back to RingCentral. When I joined RingCentral, um, one of the reasons I joined, of course, I knew the founders well. That was important. I believed in the mission. I met the team, and the team was great. The initial team here was wonderful, and that's what allowed us to go way past the IPO into a $2.5 billion company.
Yeah. And I want to hear more about your Ring Central journey. But one thing, kind of going back to your founder journey, sounds like the team part is like, timeless advice. You have to have the right team. Is there anything from like the Kira playbook that worked really well for those three companies that a founder just starting out today in this era should like rethink or throw out that part of the playbook that just doesn't, it's just not relevant today?
Well, great question. It's always this is kind of timeless. You have to be solving a unique problem in a differentiated way. You always have to ask yourself a question: is this different? How different is it? And why am I or my team, are we the best people to be the winner here? If you want to have a successful company, you have to ask yourself these questions early on. And if you can't answer them in like this, you're not like, don't do it. And you may be able to answer it, and then you may be able to adjust. I mean, all of that is always pivoting and iterating, but it's absolutely key to be able to differentiate. And it's so important now because I see so many companies today created, way more than when I created my companies, because it's easy to create a company. But are they all that different? Are they like in the days of uh, pandemic, everybody's what to solve certain set of problems because they saw it. They saw it, and it was real. But the question that many didn't ask: is it gonna last? Okay, is this a problem that's temporary and that will resolve itself in a couple of years, or is this a problem that's only gonna get become more of a problem? And do I have the technology, the know-how, and the solution that is sustainable, differentiated, and the market is big enough? That's always key. And the market has to be big enough. And so those are just sort of the foundational principles of building any company. And now these questions need to be uh, sliced and diced, even with sort of finer um, uh, uh, knife, if you will, because it's so hard to be differentiated because so much noise. And so go back to are you solving a real problem, and is your technology transformative? Sometimes a good way to look at things as, are you solving a known problem but differently? I know many venture uh, firms and investors look at these things and say, like when we solved Excel, when Excel emerged, Excel succeeded because, people needed some sort of a spreadsheet, right? I mean, it was mail. Now we can do it with software. Same now. Is it a real problem? And do you have the know-how and the disruptive technology, the team, the differentiation? And is it sustainable? Is it big enough?
Hmm. Such a great lens. So transitioning to your Ring Central experience, so you joined, is it 2012? So it's pre-IPO, but still extremely early in the company. What was it like then? And I guess from an outsider coming in, like what made Ring Central? What did they do at the beginning that set them up for this incredible success, all the way to today?
So kind of as I previously just mentioned, when I joined pre-IPO, there was a product market fit and a great team. And so that product market fit, we're kind of a bit later stage at that time. The product market fit was proven. The people who were here and already executing were great, and customers loved the product. So it was my role was not really in at that time not in creating a new product. My role was in making sure that we could scale without losing what customers love. And that meant building systems that turn customer insights into execution in a very efficient way. Dashboards on adoption, data on churn, signals on what features customers actually used versus what we thought they might have wanted. The metrics became our guide for prioritization. And really, very important in that journey was not to change the mission, to stay true to the mission, which was always this mission of easy to buy, easy to use, easy to admin, and partner friendly. As we matured our products, it may seem that it's easy to keep true to those mantras, but that was actually quite challenging. And that's, I think, where RingCentral really excelled. And I, sort of obviously very, very proud to be part of that journey. Um, and there's another aspect of kind of my journey and being an entrepreneur, I think helped me here, which, I sort of, frankly, an entrepreneur at heart. I'm still an entrepreneur at heart. I'm an entrepreneur at a very large company in a big role. And what you have to balance as an entrepreneur or as you're building a company is preparedness with scale. It's kind of the same as true was larger companies. Um, Founders thrive on intuition, but at scale, you need data. And there's the founders don't have as much participation anymore. Although our founders continue to participate strongly, and that's excellent. Um, so my job here was figuring out how to combine that readiness with scale by building that runway for us to stay true to our principles, but really scale the systems, the prioritization that is absolutely key. And ultimately, that led us to building a multi-product company and become a global leader. And then just let me close on that it's incredibly important. It was incredibly important for me to continue and preserve that partnership with the founders while hiring new people and expanding. All of that is absolutely essential. But as you build your operational muscle, but um, do not lose your DNA was sort of my mantra. Stay true to the DNA while striving at 10x, 100x scale.
Yeah. And I mean, it sounds like such a good co-founder experience. A lot of our as most of our founders, it's a co-founder relationship. Is there anything that you observed with the co-founders in RingCentral that you're like, that dynamic make them really strong? Whether it was like how they divided roles or navigated disagreements, that maybe a co-founder just starting out today could try to emulate in their relationship.
The important thing is yes to have roles. Lakshman is the CEO today. He was the CEO from the beginning. He really drives the business. He's a product guy at heart, but he's also a business guy. And then Ladvendra, who's the CTO right now, is truly an innovator and very much an engineer and does a lot of research. Those roles work well together when people respect each other's strengths. And we continue to do that. Both founders are still very active in product innovation. One of the things that you have to be able to do as you scale and you bring more people in is to make room for many opinions, but drive to a conclusion. So it's sort of like you kind of have democracy, but you don't. And that's you have to hire the right people who are comfortable with that. meaning that you have to have a vision. You have to execute to that vision. The founders set the vision, and you have to stick to that vision. While the vision could evolve, but you have to make a room for that vision to evolve while having the right team to execute on the vision and evolve and help innovate and take it to the next frontier. That was sort of, we learned our way. We figured out our way. It's one of the things that is great at being central is we can get into a room, we can disagree, we can argue, we can whiteboard, but we'll come with a decision. So that decision making and driving, and then saying, okay, we've made a decision, we're going to all align to that, is key to success.
Mm. And just kind of wanted to wrap up a little bit with, you mentioned several times you're an entrepreneur at heart. You taught, you advised, sat on boards, you're a Shakti Titan, mentoring the next generation of entrepreneurs. Why does that matter to you personally, this giving back to the next generation of founders?
A great question. I love innovation, which is actually why I started in Central Ventures here as well. And it's it's rewarding. You learn. So for me, working with founders and learning from innovative companies, actually, in some ways, um, defines our innovation agenda. So startups are amazing in picking up signals very early on, and in creating even early on sort of proof of concepts that that are illuminating. That to me is a rewarding experience and helping them scale, mature. Some founders are really smart. They're super smart. Otherwise, they wouldn't be founders. But sometimes you have blind spots. Sometimes you just need to run things by an outsider. Um, that is that to me is a little bit of giving back, learning, and sort of keeps me on my toes.
Great. Well, thank you for being a Shakti Titan. Um, I guess just to wrap in these conversations that you have with founders, Kira, is there kind of like one piece of advice you always find yourself telling founders that you're mentoring?
I always tell them, listen to your customers. Listen to your customers, and listen to your customers. Don't make things up. Solve real problems.
That's such incredible advice and a perfect place to leave this on. So Kira, thank you so much. Really appreciate you taking the time to share some of your wisdom with our founder community.
Thank you. Pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.